Hey guys, this is Savannah from earthandwater.co. Today I am here with Ire Atla, who is a medical astrologist, which is super cool. And your name is crazy cool also. I'm sure you get that a lot.
I do actually. Thank you. I appreciate that. I like my name too.
Does I imagine that people have a hard time pronouncing it, which is why everywhere I look it's like written out how to pronounce it, which is also
Yes.
awesome. I greatly
Yes, I
appreciate that.
try to help people not feel so like flustered when they see it, because it's not spelled as it's pronounced.
Yeah. So tell us about medical astrology. How did you get into this? This is not like something you pick out on a college like list of things to major in.
Oh no, not at all. In fact, I didn't even start out that way. I went to school and got the traditional college degree, and I did nursing for years and just decided I just didn't like it like I thought I would. I wanted to help people, and I just didn't feel like I was able to help people in nursing like I thought I would be able to. It turns out that you're really just more of like a legalized drug dealer, right? I'm just passing meds all day, and I just didn't feel like that's what I wanted to do for the rest of my life, was just throw a pill at somebody and run away, because I had so many other patients that I didn't have time to interact with anybody really in a way that felt meaningful and helpful, and like you were actually truly making a difference in someone's life. And so I kind of started looking for something else. And while I was doing that, I got pregnant with my daughter, and was forced onto bed rest for like basically the entire pregnancy. And so when you're sitting in bed for like 9 months with nothing to do but stare at your own four walls, you get a little fucking bored and you go looking for anything to do at this point. I didn't care what it was. And I started realizing that the way I'd been raised, where we went to see a lot of alternative health practitioners, just really appealed to me more than like working in how I was in the medical field. And so I started really looking at things. And while I was on bed rest, I went back to school for herbalism. And I got my herbalist degree right before she was born. Um, and then we did not have a great birth. It was not fun. It was not easy. Neither one of us had a great time with it. So we spent about 18 months recovering afterwards. So I didn't do much with the degree right off the bat. And so after we kind of got back on our feet and we were, doing our thing, I started seeing clients and putting together like herbal preparations and started selling those, and then started doing more and more consultations. And along the way, I realized that the way I had learned herbalism was a very allopathic approach, and it just didn't feel right to me. And it also didn't feel, again, like I was truly helping people because of how I'd been taught how to do it. So I started looking for something different, and that's when I stumbled on medical astrology, and it just clicked and it just resonated so well, because you're looking at the person as like a whole person. You're looking at the herbs as like the living beings that they are, how we're all intrinsically connected to the universe. The plants are connected to the universe. We're all, you know, cosmic beings. And so learning how to work together with all of them, and it just, I don't know, it just really made sense. And I've been using it ever since. So it was like 2012, 2013 that I really started down that path. And I've been doing it ever since. Um, I used it along the way for myself, so I knew for sure that it like worked, and I helped heal my body of some stuff that had been going on for well before I ever got pregnant. A lot of hormonal issues, and fixed a lot of those without all the stuff they told me I needed, and that would never happen. They're like, "Oh, that'll never happen. That's just how you're gonna have to be from now on." And I fixed it. I was like, "Okay, this is what I want to do. This works. I can actually make a difference with this. I can help people, like truly help people." And it's just been, that was it. Off I go, and been doing it ever since, and I fucking love it.
That sounds awesome. Yeah, there's a lot to
Yeah,
unpack. There's
it's
a lot
pretty awesome.
there's a lot to unpack there because I also am a mom, and I've been in the medical system for uh, well, okay, so on both sides. I was in nursing school for a couple of years before I also figured out that this was not for me. Mine was different. I
Mhm.
like your approach because you're right. Like kind of are just legal drug dealers, and that's problematic. And the healthcare system is just problematic in so many ways. But I'm going to try really hard not to make this all about like hating the system. But yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then as a mom myself and entering the system from the other side, that's what really got me on a complete rabbit hole of trying to help mothers and babies and parents, and so not just mothers, but new parents in general. But the system is not set up for our success at all whatsoever. And it's going to take a lot of reform in a lot of different ways. It's a really big subject to cover. But I was a birth doula for a couple of years, and then that just got to be something I couldn't do with my small children at the same time without more help. And I didn't have that village aspect really that I needed to be able to spur the moment, 3 o'clock in the morning, run to be by their side in the hospital,
Yes.
Yeah. But the holistic approach
That gets to be too
definitely,
much.
yeah, it was a lot, and it was really traumatizing. And at that point in my life, I was still trying to work through the trauma that I had already gotten throughout life.
Mhm.
So I was like, I'm trying to work through my own trauma. I'm trying to raise 2 small children. I'm trying to fight the system and be in this traumatic. Birth is beautiful, and it's not always traumatic, but a lot of times it can be. And people go from completely fine to, oh my gosh, everybody's dying very quickly. And you have
Yep.
to be able to hold your composure in those situations, which I can, but it comes at a cost, because after everything is said and done, everybody's okay, everything's fine, I have done my job, it's time for me to leave and go home. Every single time I walked out the hospital room door and closed it behind me, I would almost pass out. It would just come on all of a sudden, like the stress of it. It would just like a wave over me, and I would get dizzy and lightheaded and have to go find a place to lay down where nobody could see me. So
Yeah.
yeah, but that's a whole different tangent. I want to get back over here to the astrology part. So do you look at people's birth charts for this, or?
I do. When you're looking at it for a medical astrology perspective, it's called a planetary health chart, but of like officially. But yeah, it's their natal charts that I run, and I look at the main 7 planets that everyone thinks of in astrology: the Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Saturn, Jupiter. We look at those mainly, but then I also look at the South Node, the North Node. I look to see where Chiron is, and I do some work with like the outer planets, the Neptune, Uranus, and Pluto, depending on what's happening with them that they're asking for some assistance with. Sometimes those will be the cause. But because they were discovered later after medical astrology was like an established system, we don't have as much information about how they influence people. So it's very uncommon that they typically tend to be the issue in a chart that's causing the health problems. I then look at like which signs the planets are in, because the planets are like the energy that is like influencing the pathology in the body, whereas the signs govern the body parts and systems. So that would then indicate which body sign or which body part or system was being affected by whichever planet is being afflicted. And then I do look at the houses as well, mainly the first house, the sixth house, the eighth house, and the 12th house. The sixth house, especially because it's the house of health. And so that kind of gives us a really broad overview of like what your overall health is going to be like, and how then we can like add things in. And then I'm really starting to, in the last few years, get into like the astro nutrition piece of it all, because I mainly work with women who have hormonal issues. And the one thing that I have found along the way is that like almost 100% of hormonal issues are primarily caused by a nutritional deficit somewhere in the body. And that can be because they're not eating the diet that's proper for their body and their design. It can be that their body is having some sort of like, dysfunction somewhere, so it's not absorbing all the nutrients that they're eating, so they're not getting everything. It can be like if they have Virgo in Mars, they're going to have potentially a lot of dry membranes in their intestines, so they're not absorbing things well because it's so dry. So they're not getting like all the stuff that their bodies need. And so then I really work closely with like then different herbs and like nutritional ways of getting stuff into them to help their bodies build those stores back up and start being able to work correctly again and correct whatever deficiency is happening. So it's a combination of a lot of different things.
Yeah, astrology is really complex. People, if you're not into it, you don't have a clue. And it's really easy to write off, and people do left and right. But if you have been into it at all and really got into it, anytime someone says that they're into astrology, or I mentioned something about astrology and they seem like they kind of know or whatever, I always ask them, it's what everybody who's actually into astrology asks. What are your main three, And
Mhm.
if they don't know what you're talking about, well, there you go. Because everybody knows their sun sign, right?
Yes.
Well, most everybody.
Yes, everybody can tell me that. It's
Yeah.
very rare that someone doesn't even know what that is. It's almost always the only one that they know. And they're like, well, how's that affect my health? Oh, well, it's way more complicated than just your sun sign. I mean, your sun is your vital force, like your life battery, kind of a thing. So it gives a good overall picture of like what your health might be like and where some of the problem areas could be. But it's so more complex than just your sun sign.
Yeah, absolutely. That's I like all of the different combinations that you get with everything because it's so complex. And I've wondered for a while now if I've tried to track it myself just via because everybody I know I've looked up their chart, right, at some point or another. It's like a rite of passage to being my friend. Like, I haven't looked up your chart yet. Are you kidding me?
Mm-hmm.
But I've been trying to just track it myself to see if, because I'm all about anxiety. That's what I've built my entire platform on, is
Mm-hmm.
analyzing anxiety and trying to understand it. And I was trying to see if there are aspects that were more prone to anxiety, like if you could see that in your chart. Is that something that you know anything about?
Mm-hmm. Yep, you certainly can. So Mercury and Uranus rule the electrical system and the nervous system, and Mercury more so than Uranus, since Mercury was obviously discovered before Uranus and was placed into the system. And so wherever someone's Mercury is and whatever sign that it's in, I see typically what that can be an increase in anxiety, nervous system burnout, like all the stuff that comes with, that high anxiety level all the time. Or you can see a person that's like much more chill and like nothing really seems to bother them. Or you have the person who's kind of in between, right? Who like some things send them into high anxiety, but other things are just like, whatever. So I always look there first. I also look to see where their Gemini or their Sagittarius placement is, because those co-rule the central nervous system together, which if that's dysregulated, then you can get a lot of anxiety, nervous system burnout, adrenal system, just like, on the edge all the time. Those signs tend to be the most addicted to caffeine, which if you're drinking caffeine constantly can also cause a huge increase in anxiety, especially if you already tend toward anxiety. It can just make things worse and things like that. So I look at those signs as well. But it's very, very possible to see like where anxiety can be coming from. Where your north node is can sometimes lead to anxiety because it's a very like expansive energy. It just infuses everything with excess energy, and so it can cause too much of a good thing to happen, and so that can lead to anxiety. For some people, it can be where their Chiron placement is, because Chiron's like the wounded healer, the part of our like past and everything that we need to work on to really heal. And when we start healing that, then we can, not only heal ourselves, but help heal others along the way. I see a lot of people whose Chiron is placed in a sign that leads to a lot of anxiety based on whatever demon shadow work that they're trying to, fight there. My Chiron specifically is in Gemini, and so I have a lot of anxiety around like social interactions, because Gemini is all about like communication with other people and expressing information verbally mainly. Geminis tend to be very verbal individuals, and with my Chiron there, I always kind of feel like I'm never really being heard, perhaps, or that people aren't really listening to me, or that what I'm saying is just like nobody cares about, and that a lot of times in your childhood you really are misheard or misunderstood or not listened to. And so because of that, like as an adult, you still deal with all of that anxiety around like trying to talk to other people, because you had, like, I don't know, shitty parents perhaps that always were not nice about anything like that. I was a very hyperly verbal child, as myself, and I got a lot of grief for that from my parents. And so to this day, I still feel a little awkward sometimes when I'm talking, that maybe I'm talking too much and nobody actually wants to hear what I'm saying, which I'm starting to get now that I'm saying it.
Absolutely. I had to overcome that myself. I took kind of the extreme route in uh I can't find the word for it, but I was told to hush, to, hurry up, spit it out, get your point. And when I was probably 7 or 8, just completely shut down and stopped talking altogether. I didn't go completely mute, but I definitely really put myself on the back burner and became a listener and did not speak. There was people who I haven't talked about this in a really long time, but there's people, because I live in a very small town. Okay. I'm related to every third person. And if I'm not related to them, they went to school with either me, my parents, or my grandparents. Like, we know everybody on my road just because we know everybody on my road, not because I moved here and then went and met them, but we already knew each other.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and there's people who have known me my entire life that never have heard me speak a word, and were probably absolutely shocked when I just showed up online doing all of these videos and podcasts and stuff. But it's because I didn't feel like anybody cared. I didn't feel like anybody was listening. I felt like I was bothering everyone, because they definitely made me feel like that. So I just shut down. And but that's why we do podcasts, right? Because it's a safe place for us to be able to conversate and talk about the things that we want to talk about, rather than just mundane small talk, which people like us generally are so bored with, can't do it, can't, super awkward. But yeah, we carry on those traits from childhood absolutely into our adulthood, and it affects us still.
Yeah, it truly does. um I have someone that I've worked with in the past whose Chiron was in Cancer, and Cancer is all about like the family
Mm-hmm.
and like that mother wound sometimes. Specifically, it can be a father wound, but typically, since Cancer is more like the mother of the zodiac, it tends to be a mother wound. Um, and most of her anxiety was always around like whether or not her family that she had now created, right? She had gotten a life partner and had some kids, and just whether or not anything she was doing was good enough for them, or if they were actually really happy with her, or maybe she was going to do something to fuck up the whole thing, everyone was going to leave, including the kids. And so there was a lot of work and shadow work that we had to do to kind of dig deep and figure out like where that was really coming from and why, because it was causing like such a hard time with moving forward in anything, because the anxiety was so strong that, well, if I do this, then X is going to happen. And it's just stuff from childhood is so hard sometimes to deal with and overcome. And that's one of the hardest things that I do work with, and doing the medical astrology and helping my clients, is really helping them understand that there is legitimately nothing wrong with you. There was something wrong with them, who told you all this, whoever them may have been in your life, but there was definitely nothing wrong with you. They were trying to snuff out a light that made them you know confront their own wounds, their own demons, their own shadows, and it made them upset and it made them nervous, and it made them, kind of just that feeling you get when you do the hard work, and they didn't like it. And so they were going to do anything they could to stop that. It has nothing to do with you at all. It has everything to do with them. And so learning that and just really learning to embrace who you are and love who you are exactly as you're designed has been one of the greatest things that I've been able to do with medical astrology, because it's not just about the physical stuff. Let's be honest. Physical stuff is 99% of the reason why people come to me. But ironically, I find that most of the time when people come to me, that they're here for, I'm having, insert physical symptom here. And I find that a lot of the time the physical symptom isn't happening because of a physical problem in the body. It's happening because of a psychosomatic, thing, energy trapped in the body, trauma trapped in the body. And that what they really need to work on is like the shadow side of things, and not necessarily like, oh, you need to move more and you need to, make sure that you're eating, this certain type of way, or yeah, like none that stuff's great. Don't get me wrong. Living in a more holistic way with nature and living in tune with the earth cycles, those are all imperative things to do. But you can't do that stuff if you haven't worked on the shadow side to make you feel comfortable and confident in doing those things and calm your nervous system. You got to work sometimes on that hard stuff first. And so it's been a blessing and kind of a hardship at the same time, being able to see all that stuff and know what's going on and tell people. Not everybody is super receptive of that. They're like, well, I came to you because I want to fix, insert physical problem here, and I don't want to go do this hard work. And I was like,
Just give me the herbs.
I don't know what to tell you. Yeah, exactly. And because, I do work as like an astro herbalist with all of the herbs and their correspondences to the planets and the signs. And so I know which ones would be better. They want that. And so a lot of times a sneaky way of helping them be able to deal with that shadow side is to incorporate herbs that are really good at helping somebody start integrating their shadow side, helping them deal with like the psychosomatic stuff, and kind of, helping them on like a more energetic level with the herbs, whether they want to or not,
Yeah, because it's all energy, every bit of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just how you translate it and how you understand it, because the planets are translating energy, let's see what information. There you go. That's the word I'm looking for. They're translating information just like your chakras are translating information, just like
Mm-hmm.
that physical ailment that you have in your body is translating energetic information. It's all the same throughout the board, no matter what system you use to understand it. The important part is that you are understanding it, right? It's all fractals, it's all the same archetypes, it's tarot, it's literally all of the things. It's just whatever your mode of communication with that energy is the best part. And yeah, most people don't, they want to focus on the physical, and I think that that's what most of the medical system has done. They focus on the physical. Mental
Mm-hmm.
health just generally speaking, didn't really exist 20 years ago. We're only just now getting into mental health at all whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
And it's probably, I'd say it's at least 90% of all of our problems. And even the
Mm-hmm.
studies show that stress and lifestyle is what causes most of our problems. And that's mostly mental work right there. Stress,
Mm-hmm.
like getting over
Yeah.
that, getting through that.
Yeah. Yep, I would agree. And that's why I like medical astrology, is that it always took the psyche into account, and like your mental state, and um, all of the stuff that we've just now with like science and medicine discovered. We've been with medical astrology since the 1500s. We've been
Didn't know it.
dealing with it that way and understanding it, and that, hey, this has to be integrated so that this works better, because that's having an influence. And that's when, we started seeing the advent of like vibrational medicines like flower essences, spagyric tinctures were actually made in response to medical astrology to kind of correspond with them. And I love using spagyrics because they work on the mind, body, and spirit of a person, because you're using the mind, body, and spirit of the whole plant. And so you can do all those things with like one little tincture that is just absolutely packed full of all of the stuff that your body needs on every level, right? And it's so much more impactful than anything else that I have found, because it works on all levels at the same time. It doesn't just stop the physical symptoms. Um, Physical symptoms are there for a reason. Their symptoms are the body's language, right? It's the way of our body speaking to us and telling us that something is wrong. And when we learn to interpret those symptoms, then we can figure out like what's actually happening. And I like medical astrology because it kind of does that much easier, right? You can go and look at someone's chart and see what's going on an energetic level. You can see where a lot of this stuff is maybe having, issues because of, something that's maybe not, a physical reason. Or you can see that it is like a nutritional deficit. Hey, if we fix this, then that'll be, better. The advent of so many of these different medications has made things worse because they promote nutritional deficits in the body and the suppression of symptoms. When you suppress a symptom that your body is trying to use to tell you something's wrong, it pushes that symptom deeper into the body, setting it into like a fixed stagnant state, and then it'll start doing more and more symptoms, and before you know it, now you have a chronic health issue going on because the original root cause was never treated or managed or even looked at. And so that's why I like medical astrology, is because I can actually really see what's truly happening, find that root cause a lot quicker, and really help people kind of skip all of the let's just throw everything at the wall and see what sticks and hope that it helps me along the way kind of thing that we usually have to do on a healing journey, right? When we're trying all this stuff to see what works best for our body, this can literally tell you exactly what is best for your body and how you're designed, and then you can go from there. And so it helps enact healing a lot faster. And not saying it's not super simple. It still comes with whatever healing comes with, which is sometimes hard,
Yes.
crap that comes up that you got to deal with. But it makes it a lot easier because the plan of action where we start is not so much guesswork, and it's much more dialed in. And so it really helps on so many different levels to start with a dialed in plan instead of a let's just throw everything at it at once and see, which one's working the best, and then, dial it in from there. It saves some step work and some guesses.
Yeah. And you come out the other end not only with your ailment fixed, but probably more empowered as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because we
Yeah.
are the power. We heal ourselves. We just have to, sometimes it
Yes.
takes a little bit of guidance. And I love that you pair the coaching with it, because a lot of times that is what's mainly needed. We get people in through here through the door
Mm-hmm.
with the energy work, with the Reiki, with the herbs. And then we get them through the door, and then they talk to us and we're like, okay, well, how is this in your life? And well, what does that have to do with this? Everything.
Yes, everything is interconnected in the body. And then sometimes it's, if you're in the throes of experiencing some health problems, mental health problems, just so many symptoms at once, your body has a hard time like sorting through all that information, right? It overwhelms your nervous system. You get brain fog. It's hard for you to see the steps that you need to take, or even the bigger picture of where your goal is. And so someone like me comes in then, where it's like, oh, okay, I'm not dealing with those issues, but I can see why you're having them. And then here's the steps you need to take. And I always work in baby steps. We're like, okay, we're going to start these 2 things. That's it. And
Mm-hmm.
they're like, are you sure? Yes, I'm sure. Because if I give you any more than 2 things right now, with everything going on, you're not going to do them anyway because you're so overwhelmed. And then the chances of you doing any of them are much slimmer because now you're so overwhelmed that even one of those seems too much. So we start with 2 little things, maybe 3, and we start there. And then, we wait about a month, see how you're feeling. And then, okay, now we're going to add this step in, and we just baby step our way through it. And by the end of 3 to 6 months, whichever package they decide to, use, then they are so much closer, and sometimes have even reached their goal. It just depends on, each person is an individual and how long the problem has been going on. But if they haven't reached it, they're so much closer, and stuff is feeling so much better in their body. Their body feels better. They have energy again. Their brain fog is gone. They just feel better. They're able to then continue down the path by themselves without me having to be right there next to them as much anymore, right? And so it's really all about more empowering them to understand their bodies and take charge of their own health, because we know our bodies better than anybody else will ever know them, and we need to know that we know what our bodies need. Instinctually, you know what your body needs. So one thing that I always have my clients do is learn how to just sit still, listen to their bodies, and ask, okay, I'm having this symptom and I'm having a hard time deciphering what it is. What is this? Can you tell me? Give me a clue, help me out, and just sit and listen.
Mm-hmm.
And I know people look at me like I'm crazy, like, oh, that's so stupid. But the clients who do it are the ones that find healing faster, because they've started to listen to that intuition again and become in tune again and learn to be safe in their bodies again and know that they know what they need. You don't need to always go to another expert. In our society today, we're taught that we don't know our bodies. From the time we're infants, we have to go to the doctors and other practitioners for everything. They're the ones who know our bodies. They know bodies, but they don't know your body. You're the expert on your body. And taking charge of your health and knowing that you're the one who's 100% in control of that and no one else is such an empowering feeling, at least in my estimation and from my own experience.
Absolutely, because every one of us are completely different. And that's what drives me absolutely insane about these fad diets. And they'll be like,
Yes.
the paleo or the keto. And I try not to put my opinions out there on people about it and stuff. I just smile and nod. But then, some people get chatty about it and they ask me for my opinion. So, and we'll argue a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
completely good mannered and all, because I don't do the else if I can help it. But yeah, you have to, the best diet you can find is the one that sits with you well. And that is about knowing your body, which is about listening to your body and communicating with it. And I have this holistic food journal that I give my clients, because there's nothing more powerful than you sitting down. And I'm really big into journaling. Let's write it all down so that we can, because you're right, the brain fog
Yes.
and the overwhelm with all of the different directions, you don't know which way to look. And well, in my holistic food journal, you write down what you're eating, not every day. Like I tell them, you don't have to every day. It's better if you do it every day, but I also don't want you to get overwhelmed. If you can do it some days, then that's awesome. We just want to,
Mm-hmm.
we don't want to put too much on ourselves too quickly. And
Yeah.
write down what you eat, how it made you feel physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and because you have to go through all of these things. You have to go through all of the aspects that are you. We are a whole being, but we express that wholeness in so many different ways that some people are going to understand the physical aspect more, and that's their line of communication better with their bodies. And some people are going to understand the mental emotional better, and that's your line of communication with your body. So especially when we're taught not to listen to our bodies, that you really have to start from bare base, all of it, kind of. And I don't mean like all of it, like all of the things, but like the physical, the mental, the emotional, the spiritual, and then see which one connects with you the best so that you can follow that towards the path of healing and understanding.
Yes. That's something, when you said that about the diets, the fad diets, I do not do diets with my client. There is no such thing as a one size fits all diet at all. And anybody who tells you otherwise is probably trying to make money off of you in some way, shape, or form.
Well, most of
If
them don't.
diets worked, the diet industry wouldn't be $1 billion industry every year, because you wouldn't need to keep going back. You would be fixed, right? So what I like about the astronutrition piece is it really breaks down how your specific body is designed to break down nutrients, which foods it's designed to use on a easier and better than maybe others. There's no foods that are off limits. It's just these are the better food choices for your body. That
Mhm.
doesn't mean you can't go out and have that piece of pizza that you want with your friends. It
Sure.
just means you understand that for your body, that pizza just may not be the best thing. So when
Comes
you
with a
get
balance.
home, make sure you eat some of the foods that are better. So you kind of balance it out, right? It's all about being like that Libra influence. Everything's about balance.
Yeah.
And so there's nothing wrong with eating anything that you want, but just knowing that, hey, my body's going to feel better and I'm going to feel better mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually if I eat these certain foods over these other ones has been really freeing to a lot of my clients because they're so used to being told on these diets, well, you can't have any of your favorite foods and you have to live on, rice cakes and peanut butter or what is that, cabbage soup, yum. Nobody wants to do that. And so when they're told that, hey, you can eat whatever, but these foods are better for you and your body's way of breaking down nutrients, they told me that's just like the most freeing thing that I've been told, that I don't have to only eat these 5 things or whatever the fad diet of the day is promoting, right? And so that's been really freeing. And obviously then, because their body can process those foods better, they start feeling better quicker because they are then actually absorbing the nutrients and they're getting what their body needs. And it makes a huge change. I really hate that whole one size fits all diet culture that we have here.
Yeah, and denying ourselves, it's stressful, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so adding more stress in your life is exactly the opposite of what you're trying to do. That's why I'm like, you
Yes.
don't have to fill out the journal every single day, every single meal. You just once a week, if that's all you can get to without it stressing you out
Mm-hmm.
for now. We would like to pick up on that. Like the more you can do it, the quicker we will figure things out for sure. But if
Exactly.
whatever time you have to put towards it is the time that you have to put towards it. We are all about lessening stress instead of amplifying stress. Anything that amplifies stress is going to be,
Mm-hmm.
it's the rest and digest and then the fight, flight,
Mm-hmm.
freeze, all of that. You can't heal when you're in that stress response. You have to be in that rest and
Yeah.
digest response. But if you're hating everything you eat, that's stressful, and then you're not absorbing any of it
Mm-hmm.
because you're not digesting any of it.
Yep.
It's just kind of like going through the motions.
Yep. Yeah. Definitely, 100%. And Pisces rules the parasympathetic rest and digest like nervous system. And so I find, helping my clients learn to move into that better and, hey, let's lean into your Pisces and really, find that in your chart. Let's see where it's at, how we can influence that, and work with that. And that has helped a lot for a lot of clients too. And I just find that most people don't even think about resting because in this society, it's always go, 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 go. And that if you're not going, you're looked down upon and something's wrong with you and stuff. And it's hard to keep friends sometimes when you're the one who, doesn't want to keep doing all the things all the time with them because you'd rather just stay home and rest
Take that.
on your days off from work. And so people don't do that because they don't want to be lonely and they don't want to be the odd man out and because we're social creatures.
Mhm.
So it's hard to be that person. So learning to stop and rest, learning to get back in tune with nature, learning to spend some time out in the sun instead of in an office with no windows, that will change so many things for you. The sun helps balance our hormones, and when you don't get enough sun, you don't get those balanced hormones. Guess what you get? You get anxiety, you get depression, you get thyroid problems, you get infertility issues, you get wacky periods, you get all kinds of things, infertility. Like, it's just crazy what happens when you don't get enough sun. One of the vital things that we always work on is everybody has to go out and get like 30 minutes of sun a day at least. I prefer more, but I will take at least a starting point that you get 30 minutes of sun a day, you know, and start working toward getting more so that your body can start regulating itself again. This living inside buildings all the time and going from just like car to building to, back to car, back to a building is just not, it's not good for our bodies. It's not how we're designed to function. We're designed to live in tune with nature
Mhm.
instead of in these concrete jungles.
You're absolutely right. I find myself most of the time now, because I used to have really crippling anxiety, and because I've spent 15 years at this point trying to fix it, I've pretty much got it under control now. I very rarely do I have anxiety now.
Mhm.
And when I do, it's either because I have food allergies that cause anxiety, and soy. I'm allergic to soy, and it is in everything, and it's not
Mhm.
always labeled, so that's really frustrating. So
It's fun.
yeah, either I've gotten a hold of that and didn't realize it, or it's because I accidentally spent too much time at my computer this week and forgot to go outside. And it's crazy because I'll go work in the yard for like 30 minutes. That's all it takes. And it doesn't even take that long. I'm out there for 15 minutes and I'm like, oh, I can breathe. Like this is obviously because we forget what's good for us. That's why it's good to make a chart.
Mhm.
We talk about vision boards all the time. Do a vision board of your tools so that if you're prone to anxiety, make a vision board of all the tools that help you with your anxiety so you have it right there and you don't forget. So if you're feeling some anxiety, you
Mhm.
go to your board and you be like, okay, let me try this first thing. And then you just start checking things off. But absolutely. And then especially, we're coming up on seasonal depression time of the year. And so this getting sunlight becomes even more important because there's less of it. So you really have to actively
Yes.
make it a part of your routine.
Mhm. Yeah, depending on which part of the country you live in, or I guess what country you live in, if you don't live in, North America, like I think we both do,
Mm-hmm.
then it makes a huge difference. When it's cold, you don't want to go outside.
Yeah.
And rather, even if it's cloudy, you're still getting the beneficial parts of the sun that we need because they still come through the clouds. But it's hard to want to be outside when it's cloudy and it's cold. you know, you just don't want to go out there because it's miserable feeling. And so it can definitely make a huge difference. What I tell my clients who do live in areas that are like that during the winter time, in the northern hemisphere, very cloudy and overcast, is to increase their vitamin D intake by a whole bunch. Like take like 5 to 10,000 units a day, because vitamin D is a sun-ruled vitamin,
Mm-hmm.
and it actually can help with depression and anxiety. And when your levels are low, you can get, awful anxiety and depression. And so obviously, since we're not getting a lot of sun in the winter, what's the first thing to drop? All of the fat soluble vitamins that are governed by the sun, which is vitamins A, D, E, and K. So making sure you supplement those or you get them from your food sources is even better, um, so that you get more of those, and that can actually help with a lot of that like seasonal depression that comes around, or the anxiety that increases if you can't get out in the sun so much. So that's something that's always beneficial as well, is to try to change your diet up a little bit, because that's how our ancestors used to do it, right? They would eat a lot more like stews and things with root vegetables. They would drink a lot more like milk and stuff because they had farm animals that they would get milk from. They would eat a lot more of really nutrient dense like broths and stuff that had a lot of those vitamins and minerals in them, because they instinctively knew that for some reason when I eat these during the winter I feel better. And we need to kind of get back to that, I think, is changing up our eating habits a little bit for the winter and eating those similar foods that our ancestors used to, because they were on to something. They may not have been able to tell us exactly all of the little breakdown of everything, but they knew that it made them feel better, so they ate more of those in the winter.
Well, that's just also what they had available to them at the time, because they had to grow most of their food and
Mm-hmm.
find most of their food and hunt most of their food and raise most of their food. And so that's just in the winter, that's what they had available. And I am a big, big advocate of seasonal eating. And it's
Mm-hmm.
harder now for us because we have to actually learn another thing, learn another thing. That's so exhausting.
Yes.
There's so many things to learn. And you don't
Mm-hmm.
even necessarily, I try to garden. So, I try to grow my own food and stuff. Not everybody has that luxury. Not everybody has land and availability to be able to do that. Plus, it's a whole nother thing to learn in itself, but they kind of go hand in hand because
Mm-hmm.
the gardens follow, you can only plant certain things at certain times of the year. And then that makes seasonal eating a lot easier. But
Mm-hmm.
if you're, most of us are just getting our food at the grocery store, and most of the food is available year round because we ship it to us, right? And
Yeah.
not only does learning what seasonal eating looks like for you, for one, because again, it definitely depends on how your body evolved and where your body evolved and where your ancestors' body
Mm-hmm.
evolved and stuff like that. But um, you also have to figure out what food, so you have to figure out what foods are seasonal for you with all of that. And then you have to incorporate them, and they change throughout the year, and you can't really, but you also, if you're living like that, help the environment a little bit, because if it's in season where you're at, they're not shipping it from across the world to be there.
Mm-hmm.
So you're cutting down on
Exactly.
CO2, you're cutting down
Yeah.
on preservatives. There's a lots and lots and lots of reasons. I have a whole thing about seasonal eating. I've done tons of content on that just in and of itself.
Yeah, it's one of the things, if someone joins my program, I actually have a whole module on that, in the gut health module about why seasonal eating is so important for overall health, because like your gut basically controls everything in your body. And when your gut is happy and healthy, a lot of other things are happy and healthy. And when it's unhappy, everything is unhappy.
Mm-hmm.
So seasonal eating really helps with that, because you're getting the nutrients and stuff from the soil during those times to help your body stay happy and healthy. It has those probiotics that you need for that season. It has, all those things in it that your body needs for that moment in time. And so seasonal eating is amazing to do. And if you live in a place that has high agriculture, where you go to like farmers markets and stands where you can get it from local places, it's even better, obviously. But not all of us live there. So you do what you can with the budget that you have and what's available. And I always tell my clients that too. Like, don't feel guilty if you can't go or get to like a farmer's market with that kind of produce. Do the best that you can at the grocery store near you, like don't have to feel guilty about it. There's no one size fits all like solution here. It's you do what you can with the resources you have available to you and the budget that you have, because let's face it, not all of us have the budget to buy all organic everything all the time, or directly from the farmer or something, because that can get pretty pricey depending on where you live.
It can. I mean, honestly, everything's getting pricey with groceries these days. So you're just
Mm.
lose no matter where you're at, what you're doing.
Yeah, and that's when you got to decide what you want to prioritize. It
Yeah.
becomes hard. It's like, do I want to pay my mortgage, or do I want to eat food that makes you feel good? You shouldn't have to ever have that as a problem in your life, but that's kind of where we're getting to, it seems, with these prices lately. Like, oh, they're terrible.
It is, yeah. I'm hoping that, and I think we're all moving towards a more like community driven type of living, because, we only sectioned ourselves off into these nuclear families in like the 40s, the 50s, something
Mm-hmm.
like. It's brand new, and we all have
Mm-hmm.
pretty collectively agree that we hate it. It's not good. It's not helpful. We're all drowning in loneliness. We're all anxious, overwhelmed balls of frazzled
Mm-hmm.
nerves because we're only one person. And only one person cannot, no matter how hard you try, do all of the things that is expected of us to do, especially in the
Mm-hmm.
society that has formulated our sickness. Like it's 100% been, everything makes us sick. And so
Mm-hmm.
if you're healthy, you can't get to all of these things by yourself. It's just it's not
Yeah.
possible. So I need people to stop beating themselves up for not being able
Mm-hmm.
to get to all of the things. But especially if you're dealing with some sort of sickness or ailment, it just makes everything 1,000 times harder. And if you don't have a
Mm-hmm.
village, which most of us don't, then what can you do?
Yeah, it makes it hard, and you feel so alone, which again, we're social creatures. We're made to be, like you said, in villages and communities where we look out for each other. And when you're not, yeah, it just feels like everything is so much more overwhelming, even if it's not. It just feels that way because you don't have that support system.
Mm-hmm.
And we're trying to do all of the stuff by ourselves in our families with our, if you have a spouse, with your spouse, and with any kids that you might have, or if you don't have a spouse, all by yourself, maybe with roommates, but roommates don't always, aren't always great options for doing things with either. Not everybody wants to be that kind of roommate that's like, hey, let's do everything together, And so, yeah, it makes it so hard, and it's adds to that anxiety like we were talking about, and it adds to you starting to dislike things about yourself that you shouldn't, because you just feel so overwhelmed with everything that it's hard to make those choices, which is why it's great, that they have people like us that they can turn to who can help with so many different things. But I can't help with too much of the community. I have my own community, right, that like people can join and whatever, and that helps, but it's virtual, we can only do so much virtually. So while it's great for not feeling so alone in, why I do X, Y, and Z, or oh good, I'm not the only one who's feeling this way. If people in the community don't live close to you to make in-person friends, it can only do so much.
Yeah, I'm hoping that we will start, as we open our eyes to all of this and that we need each other, that we'll start getting into like community gardens and stuff. I
Mm-hmm.
think that those are a wonderful community building experience just in and of itself, because a single garden, for one, takes everybody coming together to help with. No one person can really, unless that's literally the only thing you ever do. No one person can run a successful garden. And then for two, it produces way more than one family can eat. And
Mm-hmm.
once we realize that and get our priorities kind of straight as a society and culture, I feel like we'll eventually start moving in that direction. I feel like we already are moving in that direction. It's just kind of slow go and stuff. Everything's slow go. Progress is slow go. It's fine.
Yeah. But we are definitely getting there. I'm with you. I see that shift happening, and it's a lovely shift. Let's just say that it's a great thing to see that people are trying to get back to, those small communities and helping each other out. And it's great. It really will change so much in society and with our health.
Yeah, on a lot of levels. Well, I've really enjoyed this. Thank you so much for sharing all of this with us. I think people would be maybe surprised to hear that medical astrology has been around for thousands of years. This is not something new, this is not some new age mumbo jumbo. This has been around for a long time. It pairs with Ayurveda and whatnot, right? Yoga comes with all those. I'm glad it waited to the end to freeze up on us. Oh no.
It's not going to work. So,
That's Mercury retrograde, right?
yes, girl, it's been ridiculous these last few weeks for me. Like, I have my own podcast, and it has been like off the chain trying to record things for it.
Uh-huh.
I'm just like, I've just told everybody, I don't, if Mercury's in retrograde, these next episodes are going to be whatever they are, and you're just going to have to accept them because I'm done.
Yeah, absolutely. Every one of them I've done the past like week has had something go wrong. This one was
Hmm.
really nice to let us get to the end first.
Yes, yes, because that doesn't usually happen. They, I'm just I tried to record an episode with like a friend of mine the other day, and it was doing such funky things, and then like literally smack dab in the middle of it, it was finally recording, we were on a roll, her computer just literally shut off, and she was like, it's plugged in, like everything's fine. I have no idea. So then it killed the recording, obviously, because like it stopped. So then I try to piece together all these little pieces of recording that did come. I'm just like,
Which is a
I just give up.
nightmare.
Yes. I'm like, I told her, I said, hey, if this doesn't turn out, I was like, we'll just re-record it after the 15th when Mercury's out of retrograde. They'll just have to deal without some podcast episodes in the meantime.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of this with us. I didn't know that you had your own podcast. Tell us how to find that, what's that called, and how else people can find you and connect with you.
Yes. So I'm in the middle of rebranding. So my current website is twinravennaturals.com. You can go there to book medical astrology readings. You can download my free ebook, Your Sun Sign and Your Health, from there. If you want to listen to my podcast, I would love that. It's called The Herbal Ire. It's on Spotify, Apple, I don't know, any of the platforms you can think of. So that's available. Episodes usually drop on Thursdays. With Mercury in retrograde lately, it's hit and miss, and it is what it is. So I have that. I have my community. It's called the Astro Connection Community. And that should be available in the link that I sent Savannah. It's a Discord group, and the invite link is in my link tree. Um, let's see, what else do I have? I think that is it currently. We can work together via multiple ways. I do have my program that is available. It's a 6-month program that's kind of self-paced. You go at your own, pace for that. And that is available. It's called Welcome to Wellness. It gives you all like the foundational steps to start living like more holistically and naturally and more in tune with nature. I have just a one-off medical astrology reading where if you feel comfortable and confident in all of the more like natural approach to everything, then I can do a deep reading, a very in-depth reading. I go ahead and give you like a protocol with everything that I mentioned in there, and then you kind of take that and run with it. If you feel like you would like some more guidance, I offer 3 and 6 month coaching packages as well with the medical astrology reading. So it's whatever works best for you. I do take payment plans for those who would potentially need that option. And I am happy to just talk to you, chat, whatever you need first to feel more comfortable, make sure we're a good fit, whatever. And so I do have on my booking link a discovery call where we can chat and we can see if we're a match. And if you feel, comfortable, then we'll move forward. So I think that is all the ways that you can work with me currently.
Awesome. And we'll, of course, make all of that real easy to locate and find when this episode airs. So they don't have to go like remember that or write down or take
Yeah,
notes. We'll have you.
for sure. Everything will be in the show notes. It'll be easy.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh, I do put out a weekly newsletter as well if you would like to get on that list. That sign up is also in my link tree that I've sent to Savannah.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of this with us today, and I hope you have an awesome day.
Thank you. You too.